Well, thank you. Good morning. Well, last week, the government and the BC Public School Employers Association put an olive branch out to us in our ongoing negotiations. They backed off the unrealistic 10-year term that most British Columbians had already dismissed. Teachers were glad to see this government, in particular Christy Clark, move away from a bad idea. And on Thursday, teachers were encouraged and hopeful that maybe this government was finally going to show some good faith. Unfortunately, by Friday, the hope that this government could bargain in a respectful way was wiped away by a series of threats. After 16 months of negotiations, the government is now up to their old tricks. Threats of wage rollbacks, lockouts, and attempts to divide teachers, parents, and students are back on the table, much like they were in 2012. I guess we shouldn't be surprised. This is the same government that the BC Supreme Court has said that they've violated our Charter of Rights twice. It's the same government that has bargained in bad faith. They wanted to shut down schools for political partisan gain. Teachers, students, and the entire education system deserve better than that. My priority and the priority of all teachers remains a fairly negotiated settlement. We want a deal that is fair, respects our work, and provides better supports for our students. That means smaller class sizes, increased support for children with special needs, and more specialist teachers so that all of our students get that so needed extra one-on-one to support them when they need it. A fair deal also means a reasonable wage increase for teachers that recognizes the growing cost of living and how far BC teachers are behind the rest of their colleagues across Canada. But to date, this government has not provided any major incentive that would bring the two sides together. Despite the development of a modest signing bonus, the government still insists that we take 2 more years of zero. Teachers just finished a legislated 2-year contract that had no wage increase. And now the government wants us to sign another deal with more zeros. It's not a fair or reasonable offer. They've not even come close to offering teachers what other workers in BC have achieved. In addition, the government is intent on ignoring the Supreme Court of BC. Despite teachers winning the right to negotiate working conditions, this government wants to restrip all the language that ensured kids would be in smaller classes and have access to more specialist teachers. It was those very same provisions, like shop classes limited to 24 students, 1 teacher counselor for every 600 students, that kept schools safe and enhanced learning. Since Christy Clark illegally stripped those learning conditions away, an entire generation of BC kids have been shortchanged. There are over 16,000 classes in British Columbia with 4 or more children with special needs, and there are more than 3,800 with 7 or more. We have shop and tech ed classes with 30 plus students in woodworking rooms that were designed for 24. That is not safe for our students. We're seeing districts lay off teacher librarians and speech pathologists. That will mean more closed school libraries. It's all because government underfunds education. And it was the stripping of our collective agreement that has allowed all this to happen. BC currently funds education $1,000 per student less than the national average. That means BC students are being shortchanged. It's time for this government to reinvest in education. That's why BC teachers are taking a stand. We've been engaged in low-level Stage 1 job action since April 23rd. The hope was government would move off their unreasonable and unfair demands. After a month, they've only moved off the easiest item, a 10-year term that everyone in BC knew was unworkable. That leaves a less than satisfactory wage proposal and no movement on class size, class composition, or staffing for specialist teachers to give all our students that needed more one-on-one time. The government and BCPC have not tabled a single item that will improve learning conditions for our students, which we know are our working conditions. And they are still asking teachers to accept zeros. The recent move to throw in a signing bonus should be redirected to our salary grid. That will bring the sides closer together. But they're not there yet, and we need to encourage them to be there. And so the BCTF Executive Committee and bargaining team have come to a difficult decision that because of government's unwillingness to move on class size and class composition, as well as fair wages, teachers will move to stage 2 of our job action. This decision is not taken 4th to 6th in a province-wide 9,301 teachers cast ballots. 89% voted in favor of a 2-stage job action plan. We started with low-level actions, but we were clear from the start we would move to the next stage if necessary, if meaningful progress at the bargaining table did not occur. It's been 2 months now, and this government is still stuck on unfair proposals and new threats now as well. Teachers will begin rotating strikes on Monday, May 26th, and continue for 4 initial days until Thursday, May 29th. Any continuation, and we hope the government will come to its senses, will be based on what is happening at the bargaining table. It remains my sincere hope that we can get a negotiated deal at the table, but the government's recent antagonistic behavior makes it clear that it's time to take a strong stand and to speed things up for now. All the strike information will be posted on our website, www.bctf.ca. In summary, the province has been divided into 4 groups of school districts. We will close down a large group of school districts in each one of our days of action. For example, on May 26, Vancouver and 15 other school districts will be behind picket lines. 3 different groups will be out May 27th, May 28th, and May 29th. Schools will be all open on Friday, May 30th. The impact will be significant. Every single region of our province will be affected every single day. In giving much more notice than we were legally obligated to do by the Labor Relations Boards, it's our hope that parents and school communities can plan ahead and make the adjustments that they need to do. On the days that school district is out, teachers will be on the picket line, and that means extracurricular activities on those days will be impacted. This job action is significant. We did not come to this decision to implement rotating strikes very lightly. As teachers, we care deeply about our students, and we empathize with our parents who have to rework their schedules. And many of us are parents too. And that is one of the reasons we are taking this action. We need to take a stand for public education in BC. We invite parents to join us. More than anyone, you know the impact that government underfunding is having on your children and your schools. Join us on the picket lines, write to your MLAs, and talk to your children's teachers. It's time for change. It's time for this government to make education and education funding a priority. BC kids should not be shortchanged any longer. We need smaller class sizes, better class composition, and more specialist teachers to work one-on-one with all of our students. If this government is serious about labor peace, they will put the improvements to class size, class composition, and more specialist teachers. They should offer teachers a fair deal and show some good faith. We will remain at the bargaining table. There are 6 days left before the first school will close. I encourage Christy Clark and Peter Fassbender to be in touch, to move off their unreasonable demands, and empower BCPC to negotiate a fair deal. Teachers remain fully committed to a negotiated settlement and ready as always to bargain in good faith. Our hope is that this government brings more to the table than threats, but a willingness to make positive moves that will bring both sides together for a fair deal for teachers, which includes better supports for our students. And to the teachers of British Columbia, I want to thank you for all the work that you do every day in our classrooms with our students. You're amazing and is appreciated. Our public education system is still so good because of the work that you do along with our parents to make our schools a great place to be and working best to try to meet the needs of all our students despite the conditions you've been working in the last 12 years. Thank you. And also to our colleagues, our sisters and brothers in CUPE, IOE, Teamsters, and other support staff unions. Thank you for the work that you also do in working side by side with us. It is appreciated, and together we will continue. Thank you very much.
Tell us a little bit more about the rotating strikes. Will be Vancouver for the first Monday and then not Vancouver the next day? How's that working?
That's right. Each school district will be off for one day across this province. We've divided it up. All that information will be posted on our website. I have to acknowledge, I think our website crashed today because so many of our members were trying to get on it, and I apologize for it happening, but it just shows how engaged you are too. So that information will be going out. I believe it's in our news release. It shows which school districts are going to be affected in the next 4 days.
What can be done to avert this? What are you hoping the government might do that could stop all of this from occurring?
Well, what government needs to do, and I think it's something that I've been saying all along, is they need to bring more funding to the bargaining table
More specifically?
so we can get that deal. They need to bring a reasonable wage offer. They need to acknowledge the Supreme Court decision that restores smaller class sizes for our students, class composition guarantees, and more specialist teachers working with our students in our schools. They need to acknowledge that we need to have that back into the collective agreement, and we're ready to negotiate that.
This is a week of rotating strikes. What happens if they don't budge?
Next week is a week of rotating strikes, and
Week after that, what happens if they don't budge?
well, then, depending on the progress, we will continue rotating strikes if necessary. But I'm hoping that government will come to the table. Government says that they want a deal, we want a deal, and so let's make it happen. But we know for any deal to happen in any sector, government has to be willing, and so far we don't believe they've been willing to get a deal with us right now.
Will they continue the very next week?
If necessary, rotating strikes will continue, again, depending on progress at the bargaining table.
Jim, has the union ever confirmed the Employers Association number 7.3% over 6 years plus signing bonus? And Peter Cameron says the union wants 15.9% over 4 years. Have you ever responded to those numbers?
Well, we've tabled 10.75% over 4 years, and plus variations of cost of living. And the employer has tabled 6.5% over 6 years, and another 0.75 if we're willing to, again, gut our collective agreement. But we have to remember that this government illegally stripped our collective agreement in 2002. They took out, according to government documents back in 2002, $275 million out of the education system, out of our collective agreements. They've already taken the money out of our collective agreements, which have affected our students and have affected our members with the conditions that we've been working in and our students have been learning in.
Jim, you guys are supposed to be meeting Thursday and Friday to negotiate. Is there any point to that if nothing changes from the government given this time?
Well, there's always a point in being at the table talking. And, you know, I'm hoping that government will come to the table with some more reasonable offers at the table, perhaps put the signing bonus that they offered into the salary grid, move on some of their other proposals, including the wage proposal, and it's time to move on class size, and they're unwilling to do that.
Technically, is it possible to have an agreement before Monday the 26th? Is it possible?
It's always possible. Anything is possible.
Would there be any time to talk between the two parties and before the actual rotating strike?
Well, we're at the bargaining table on Thursday and Friday, and that's an opportunity to be talking, and there's always other opportunities to be talking as well.
Will the class size be already in the agenda rather than just discussing through the media?
Sorry, I didn't understand.
Will this class size and task composition already in the negotiation agenda rather than just giving it?
Oh, yeah, this is actually the first time in 12 years we've been legally able to negotiate class size. So class size is at the bargaining table, and what we want to see is smaller class sizes for our students, minimum levels of teacher librarians, learning assistance teachers, special education resource teachers, teacher counselors. We want to ensure that our students have access to these specialist teachers, and we want those guarantees in our collective agreement. Because we've seen what has happened in the last 12 years when it hasn't been in our contract. Just take a look at what's happened in Coquitlam. I think they're shutting down or laying off every teacher librarian. So basically what they're doing is cutting teacher librarian services in Coquitlam. I mean, that's our libraries. Teacher librarians that work with our students. The love of reading. And the reading is so important. And what does that show? That libraries aren't important, and that's the wrong message, and that's because of the government underfunding. And we need those levels. We need to ensure that we have teacher counselors in our schools, that they're learning assistance teachers, special education resource teachers. We want to see those guarantees so our students who need that service can have that service. That's so important. And I wanted those services available for my kids. My kids are older now, and I don't know if they would have those same services available to them that they used to have.
Jim, could you give us some insight into the timing here? Why now?
Well, we've been monitoring the bargaining table. We've been looking at the progress, and the progress has been, well, there really hasn't been any progress on the major issues. And then, of course, what happened on Friday. Like it's, they put an olive branch out, and on Friday, by the way, we're taking that out and we're going to use the stick. That's just not the way. That doesn't bring us closer to a deal, and we want a deal.
To what degree is it possible to settle all this with the outstanding issue of their appeal of your court victory hanging in the balance?
Yes, we recognize that there is appeal on class size, but there is also a way to come to an agreement on class size being in the collective agreement before the appeal. That's always possible if there's a will. Yes.
Is it technically possible during the course of a collective agreement to lower the wages of a group of employees? Is it technically possible?
Well, you're talking about the threat?
Yeah.
Yes. That threat that came on Friday sure did not bring us closer to an agreement. And to make a threat that government is going to deduct the wages of our teachers that are working in classrooms every day, working as hard as they could to meet the needs of our students, meeting with parents, doing report cards, doing voluntary activities, being there every single day, and government says, by the way, we want to deduct your wages by 5 or 10% because you're not doing your job. That's just so disrespectful, so unnecessary. And we'll deal with it at the Labor Relations Board. We'll be going to the Labor Relations Board.
There is some laws that govern the labor relation. Is it legally possible to decide that, to have an employer saying, we had a deal last year who says, let's say, $10 an hour, and from next week it's going to be 9. Is it legally possible?
Well, we're hoping it's not legally possible. That's why we're going to Labor Relations Board. But we also know that this government, we had negotiated collective agreements. And with the stroke of a pen back in January 2002, they wiped out class size, class composition, learning specialist ratios, as well as 10 local collective agreements that were negotiated in good faith. I would have never thought that was possible in a democracy like British Columbia, and they did it. Thank you.